Hey everyone. Um, I'm gonna remain consistent with my posting. There's a weird glare thing coming up from up there, so trying to adjust for that. I don't know how to do that, but that's okay. So I will continue on this process that I've started here today, and part of what today and I think yesterday was making sure I keep the ball rolling. But today, like yesterday, I could at least be like, okay, let me just go over what I already learned, you know? Today that's not happening. Today, I had a very, I wouldn't say argument, even though it was perceived as such and probably was mine as well, my fault as well to some extent. But it made me realize that acceptance is important. Uh, there's something that maybe someday I'd love to showcase on this channel or maybe use this channel to launch it by, which is why I've started posting so regularly all of a sudden. For anyone watching in the future, if you go back, it's all just random gaming clips, right? And it was all kind of part of this bigger picture for me. There's something else I'm trying to do in my life, and this is part of that. This is not the complete outcome, but this is a part of that. And this other thing, I'm gonna speak in vagaries, is so deeply important to me that it's almost transformed me. I've been quite literally working like 9 to 12 hour days almost every day for like the last month and a half. And I've done that a few other times in my life as well, to be honest. It's not like completely out of the blue, but in my past, what I've done is like there's something coming up. I did my master's, um, and I had my dissertation, and there was a lot of my mother. Uh, I was the primary caregiver for my mother at that time, and um, she wasn't literally comatose, but she was extremely weakened from chemotherapy. Um, and so I was really even with my extension, I was dilly-dallying on my dissertation, and then one day I woke up, I'm like, shit, I only have like 2 months left. Or maybe it was a month and a half. I think it might have been a month and a half, maybe 2 months. I don't remember. But either way, I did the same thing, and there was a deadline, and I hit it, and I passed with flying colors. You know, I got an A grade. I eventually graduated with, I mean, getting an A grade on a dissertation, like academically, seems like ridiculous, honestly, to me, because it's a dissertation. You know, how do you grade a dissertation? But I also get their point of view where I think dissertations, you know, it's a lot more about presentation and like thinking through your problem and explaining it really well, you know, rather than actually having a good problem or even a good outcome. And I graduated with distinction and all that jazz. And now I'm having that same feeling of like I'm working continuously, but there isn't an end in sight, right? And it's, I think, transformed me to some extent. I have been extremely bullish recently about my familial relationships, my relationships with my family, and focused a lot on healing them. It's a small dumb thing, but like, getting upset at your parents for wanting tech support or something like that. But it goes a bit deeper than that with me because there's a lot of baggage with my parents. And that's, I suddenly, loads of things, I just, things that I would have blown up on or gotten mad about earlier on, I just stopped. It all kind of stopped on its own. My dad asks me for anything now, I just go help him and it's done, because emotionally speaking, like I know he's mildly, he's not really like diagnosed OCD, but he's just literally very picky. And used to bother me is like in a couple of different ways, but now it's just like, okay, fine, it's your house, I'm staying here, for the time being. I'll do whatever you want. That's okay. It's fine. It really is. Um, what wasn't fine is that sometimes I feel like he can say really untoward things, and I'm not gonna say what he said because I don't want this to someday in the future turn about like, oh, my dad's like this. No, my dad's awesome. He's a great person at heart. But because of a lot of different reasons, I think internally he doesn't see me in the best light, and it comes out in different ways. And sure, he acknowledges that I'm working now, but like, a month and a half of work, like, what does that really mean in the grand scheme of things? It's like, if you don't keep this up forever, it's like, or for a long period of time, you're not going anywhere and you've wasted your potential and all that jazz. It's whatever. I'm not, there's a deep sense of dissatisfaction, I think, and it comes out in many different ways. And I've tried to maybe get him to acknowledge that. And what I realized was he's not capable of it, and not in a mean way, like he's literally incapable of it. Like, no, not in that way. Like, you can't draw the mental processes that I could clearly see, and other outside observers, in that moment also saw, uh, my wife specifically. Um, and I was making, I guess, a veiled threat, be like, I'm gonna move out now, right? It wasn't really a threat because I've threatened and gotten angry and pissed off before, but I actually wasn't angry this entire time. I mean, I was like internally, I was furious. I was fuming. Uh, because he kept saying things that I would like to think he knows, and he seems to acknowledge that would have triggered me much harder, and it would have gone much worse in the past. Um, except this time it didn't. I tried so hard to extend multiple olive branches and stuff like that. It's like, listen, in the future, I don't even expect you to change your behavior or stop saying things like this. But at the very least, if we get into it again, can you, and if I, if we together converse and can come down to it being caused by this deep unsatisfaction, could you at least acknowledge it without giving me a backhanded a backhanded like, yes, I feel this way, but also at the same time, the only way for you to change how I feel is for you to work your ass off continuously, for the next few years or whatever. Like, make me believe the other way, right? And he acknowledges I'm working hard. It's not that, it's more about the fruits of that labor that he doesn't see. And obviously, there isn't any right now. And maybe there never will be, and that's okay. But I can at least honestly say that I'm on the path and that I'm going to stick with it. I still am. I worked my ass off today as well. exhausted from last time. My mother's chemotherapy is actually still undergoing, so I took her for her chemotherapy this morning. This is just turning into a vlog, so I'm just gonna lean into that. Um, I took her for her chemotherapy. Um, they gave her like a little sofa thing to sit at and get her chemo done today. But there was no space for the attendant, me, to actually sit. And she's got peripheral neuropathy, so there's no feeling in her hands and feet. So she always needs support. So I just like kind of stood around mostly and paced. It was fine. I honestly I could have still pulled out my phone and read on my phone because there's articles I need to read because I'm trying to put together a pitch deck actually. Um, for what I'm trying to work on. I'm staying vague because I don't want to share too much about it. But you know, I could have read that. I could have done this and that. But like I was tired. I didn't sleep too well last night, and today was going to be a shorter day because we weren't going through insurance because we got our medication through a patient assistance program. So I figured it would be quicker because otherwise, when you're waiting in Indian hospitals, it's common to just wait on insurance to give you the approvals you need and stuff like that. So I don't remember where this is going. Um, anyway, so it was a long day for me as well. But regardless, I pushed myself. The moment I got back from the hospital in the afternoon, I was on it and I was working till pretty late. And then I came back home and this thing got triggered with my dad. And you know, I'm not blameless. I'm definitely not. Um, I was mildly triggered by something he did, and I'll give myself credit for not being as big of a dick about it as I used to be when I was younger, but I could have also just let it slide. But you know, it was still important because long story short, I think because I'm basically going at full speed and also at the same time I see no end in sight and I want to continue going at full speed. I think weirdly enough, that process has transformed me, especially because I deeply believe in the importance of the other thing that I'm trying to do and this as well. Um, that um, I'm seeking long-term mental comfort, not short-term mental peace. And to me, that meant like healing my relationships. And so I've been trying a lot harder. So he multiple times um, tried to trigger me, and he kept trying to trigger me, and he was internally successful. Like internally, I was furious, but you know, and there might have been small pieces that showed, but nowhere near as bad as I have been in the past. Anyone in my family would acknowledge that. You obviously have whoever's watching this, if anyone is, have no context for this, but that was the case. And towards the end of it, I drilled down. I realized what had happened and that it came from this deep dissatisfaction with who I am in his eyes. Uh, Something I don't see in myself, at least not anymore. I did like about a couple months ago, but once this started, I actually don't feel like a piece of shit or like a failure or anything like that. I actually feel great, you know? I mean, I think that's at least somewhat of a prerequisite to be able to work like 9, 12 hours a day. And I'm not glorifying that, you know, necessarily. And it doesn't work out for everyone. Like it's easy for me because I'm in between jobs and I'm taking care of mom's chemo. So like I'm basically at home 24/7. So I can literally just wake up whenever, work my ass off till like literally my eyes shut off and I have to go to bed because I literally cannot function anymore. Right. And so I'm not glorifying like, oh, 10, 12 hours because for some people it's literally not possible based on the type of job you have. Mm. You know, working hard is a state of mind, not the number of hours, in my opinion. That's a different story. Um, but anyways, when we drill down to that, he had real difficulty acknowledging it, and it was difficult for me, and this applies to both my parents, not just him actually, because there's a lot of baggage and pain like deep pain associated with my upbringing. Um, that as an adult, I completely understand where they're come from. They're both broken people in their own way. And the thing is, like, before I'd be like, oh, this is like, you know, caused by their trauma or whatever, which is true. And I can logically understand that. And I can logically understand, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be having certain emotional expectations of them. That's also true, but that doesn't like automatically stop feelings, right? And then I realized today, and I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think the Buddha was right. As hard as I'm trying to fix the relationships in my life, and you can be very careful about new relationships. Me and my wife are just the best. Literally, I couldn't have hoped for anyone better. And it's not like we don't argue or disagree. We do a lot, but very emotionally fulfilling relationship, I will say. But other than that, like there are other relationships, like your family, like parents and things like that. They're singular, and unless they're extremely toxic, it's not a relationship you toss out easily. I mean, people do these days. It's very easy to toss out relationships like that these days. But like there's this like movement of cancel your parents, but it's a very singular relationship. So unless it's like truly destructively terrible, you don't want to really do that because that's just it has other knock-on effects, and I because I kind of semi-tried at one point long ago. um Anyways, the point I'm trying to get to was my big realization is you have to just accept the pain, like literally. I'm here, I can logically accept that I shouldn't have emotional expectations or any like certain type of expectations from them. But it's not gonna stop me from feeling hurt or angry or whatever when they say something that is untoward or whatever, or that I don't agree with. And I just have to accept that pain, that feeling of pain, not try to rationalize it, and be like, oh, I shouldn't feel this because logically I shouldn't have any expectations of them, right? Because they're XYZ, whatever, right? There's a lot of issues there, and I don't want to get into the specifics of it, but there are. Okay. Okay. Is moving out a solution, right? I mean, it's not that toxic of a situation where it's like, oh, I need to move out or I will literally not be able to survive. It's not like that. They love me. They want me to grow and stuff like that. But if I moved out, they're just gonna call me a lot. And I'll dull the pain for sure by not being next to them, right? But if my original goal of seeking that long-term mental comfort, not just short-term mental peace, where someone just shuts the fuck up for a little while, if you're seeking that, right? So I like went through this. I'm like, okay, should I just move out? Well, no. Internally, that's gonna suck because I don't want to hurt them like that because I know they want me to be around no matter what he said. Because it kind of started with a whole like, why don't you move out kind of thing. Um, even though I know internally and like literally right after he made it very clear, because when I started getting the bags, it was like, no, don't do that. So I chose not to, and he's on phone right now. Probably.
हाँ बेटा, ये क्या नाम, वो कैंसिल कर देना। बेटा तुम अभी अभी कैंसिल कर दो ना, अभी तो फिर क्यों बिना क्यों आए बिना मतलब पे ये ना। या डू इट टू मॉम, मेरे ये बीपी में चेक किया बहुत हाई है, और ये मेरा बार बार मैसेजेस आए चले जा रहे हैं। और वो आर्टिफिशियली का जो भी आया था कल रात को, और आज भी वो भी दोबारा आना शुरू हुआ, कभी नहीं आया जिंदगी में पहले से, आज से पहले। आई डोंट नो, yesterday also it came and today again it's gonna start coming। मैंने बीपी भी चेक किया, ऑलमोस्ट 113 बाय 170 के आसपास कुछ है। आई डोंट नो, lower side is 113 and the higher side is 160 or something। I don't know। Anyway, I'm just going to. No, I'm just. I don't know. Just feeling a bit. No, 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 nothing like that। नहीं 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 बेटा, वो मॉम के लिए मुश्किल होती है वहाँ पे। मॉम ने भी फिर जाने के बाद बहुत सुनाई है मेरे को। शी वाज क्वाइट। या नो, आई नो बेटा, इट्स। नहीं नहीं नहीं, आप तो आराम करो बेटा, आराम से सो। मॉम नहीं उधर सुनी वगैरह, ठीक है मैं सो जाऊंगा। आई मीन, you can leave the door leak, can you can leave the door open। डोर छोड़ खुला छोड़ देना, फिर मैं खुला छोड़ दूंगा, और खोल ले लेना, थोड़ा पानी पी के सो रहा हूँ। No, no, I'm not having any pain or anything। ये messages आ रहे हैं बार बार, और कुछ नहीं है। I'm just going to lie down, maybe I'm just stressed out, that's it। I'm feeling terribly low, that's one thing, but other than that I'm fine। I'm yeah, that's it। Okay, चलो, okay, bye बेटा। Yeah, 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 बहुत बहुत। anyway it's okay, ठीक है। Okay बेटा, bye। नहीं नहीं, कुछ नहीं हुआ, आई एम जस्ट फीलिंग वेरी लो बेटा, एंड अननेसेसरली बिना मतलब पे कोई बात भी नहीं, कोई चीज भी नहीं, कुछ सिचुएशन भी नहीं, इतना सुनने को मिला मेरे को। हमारी माँ ने भी इतना सुनाया मुझे, जिसका तो मेक्स मी फील लाइक आई एम द मोस्ट हॉरिबल ह्यूमन बीइंग। इट्स नॉट समथिंग व्हिच यू फील गुड अबाउट, बट ठीक है, इट्स ओके। आई थिंक दिस इज ऑल माय कर्मा यार, ये मेरा ही है। नहीं 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 बेटा, कुछ नहीं है। चलो तुम आराम करो। नहीं नहीं, कुछ नहीं है बेटा, कुछ नहीं है, बिलीव मी, कुछ नहीं है। इट्स ओके, आई एम फाइन। आई विल बी फाइन सुबह तक। शायद मुझे नींद रेस्ट लेना है थोड़ा सा। मैं थोड़ा पानी पी के सो रहा हूँ। तुम बाद में आओगे तो दरवाजा खोल देना यार, मेरे कमरे का दरवाजा खुला छोड़ देना, दैट्स ऑल। चलो, ओके बेटा, ओके बाय। ओके बाय।
Yeah, I don't know if any of the audio input capture was happening during that, but accept your pain. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It's like moving out. If that pain's just gonna follow you, it'll be dulled, right? And it's never going to like clearly fog away. But because it's dulled, it's enough to ignore, right? And you can push through that for a little while, but slowly but surely you start feeling like, oh, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, this and that. And I feel that way. I have in the past. Right. Actually, right now I don't, like with this really with this realization, right? That I just have to accept that pain, right? Because trying to run away from it isn't a solution in any way, right? Like in the way of like trying to fix my relationship with my father or whatever. Even that's in its own way, it's also kind of running away from it. I just have to accept it. And it's not real. This is not really tied to the theme of this channel, right? Which is all about learning and all that, right? Because I mean, that's what I'm really into. I'm a researcher at heart. I worked as a research assistant for a few years when I was younger. After I graduated, after I did my bachelor's, I mean, um, the work was satisfying, that's for sure. Much more satisfying than industry. The money was terrible, right? And you know, maintaining that curiosity that I always say is important if you're if it's like specifics about learning, but like I think bigger than that, it just allowed me to get to this point, and this has been a very long process, extremely long process, and it's still ongoing of where I'm at and where I intend to go. You gotta want to grow. And you can't be numbing yourself repeatedly to pain because this is not the first time I've had a revelation like this. It's been other things in other ways, like all those other logical things that I just described. But oh, I need to accept this and accept that, and they have their trauma and blah blah blah. Those were all rationalizations and different intellectual attempts of running away from pain. Um, I don't think that's really the solution. You just genuinely have to accept it. You have to make peace with it. Um, you have to realize that pain is inside you, but it's also being passed on to you, right? It's both, right? And if you don't accept it, it's like infinite money glitch. You're just gonna pass it on, except you're just gonna feel worse about it. You're just gonna make someone else feel that pain that you're feeling. And when you do that, your own pain will just amplify even more. It fucking sucks. It's something I've done with my parents. I've done with probably other people in my life, mostly my parents. Honestly, I don't think it's. I'm pretty um, well contained and charismatic and all that jazz with regular people, or with literally anyone else that's not my parents. But they have a way of triggering me, and that's what it is. But I just have to accept it. And coming back to the point of how this connects to what I was saying, it's bigger and bigger than that sense of curiosity. There's an inherent want to grow, right? And the only way you'll do it is not by dulling the pain. Dulling the pain doesn't work. And I'm not even knocking you if you love playing video games or smoking weed or drinking or whatever it is, you know? I'm really not because those things are very demonized. Pornography is another one. They're very demonized, very, very demonized. With good reason, that they can be life destroying. But the problem isn't the thing itself, right? It's why you're doing it or why you continue to do it very specifically, right? Because if you're just into, like, let's say cannabis recreationally, you'll smoke a little bit or whatever, and then maybe for a few more days you'll keep smoking, then you'll be like, oh man, I'm starting to not feel it anymore. And because you actually just enjoy marijuana, you just enjoy cannabis, like in general, not because you're doing it because you're running away from other things, you'll be like, okay, I'm just gonna stop, and then maybe I'll smoke some more next weekend or something like that, right? Mm, that will be the case. But a lot of people have a lot of internalized pain for different reasons. And I think subconsciously you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And then that's that addiction, right? Where at a certain point you're not smoking it to have fun. You're just smoking it to not feel terrible, right? And weed's a complex topic as well because the weed in the US is incredibly strong. That's a whole different story. I may be outing myself a little bit by talking about this, but whatever, right? This has happened multiple times, and each time it's been a fairly transformative step for me in my life. And you'll get it wrong. You'll get it when you start accepting pain, I think. 'Cause I wasn't even truly accepting it till now, right? And you probably, if you're hearing this and if any of this is resonating with you, you'll probably try it and you'll do it in your own way where you're logicalizing it and rationalizing it. And but pain, what I'm talking about is like I think several steps further. And that's part of the process and part of the journey. When you start being like, I need to confront this, whatever trauma or whatever it is, bad relationship, etc., etc. You will have these stages repeatedly, and maybe eventually you'll come to this, or maybe you're not, or maybe I'm completely off base and like actually I'm completely wrong, and this is I'm gonna have another transformative revelation, transformative moment several years down the line, maybe. I don't know. But then again, entire religions have been erected on this premise of accepting pain. So maybe I'm onto something. I don't know. Or maybe the Buddha was, because he was the OG when it comes to accepting pain. You gotta be bullish about wanting to grow. And there is no growth without pain. One thing is stagnation is painful too, so is loss, right? If you're growing, it's painful. If you're staying standard, it's painful. Coming back down, it's painful. It's always painful, right? Because it sucks. But if you recognize, or at least try to recognize, and I feel like there's at a certain point on a deeper level, you recognize this as true. Maybe you will, maybe you won't, but I feel this where you're, I wouldn't say your ego dissolves, right? But you start to see through it, right? Because the ego is a useful construct, and I'm still very egoistic as a person for sure, right? And not in the confidence sense, but just in the more general sense of I still have that conception of me and I and my agency and all that jazz, right? But you definitely start seeing through it. And when that happens, you start seeing yourself as connected to the rest of the world and to everything, like literally everything, not just every other human being, but literally everything. So when you start seeing that, and you see pain no matter what, you start seeing that this vessel that you occupy, or that something occupies, your human form, it's going to experience pain no matter what. But if you keep growing or keep moving towards growth, and that can take many forms because sometimes, you know, some people are like at such a high level where growth isn't, it's not money or anything like that or learning or anything like that. It's very maybe inward, maybe spiritual. But if you keep going down that path, then at least this vessel of yours can not reduce others' pain because everyone else will have their own pain as well. But maybe help them understand how to accept it as well in your own way. I don't know. I'm having a real philosophical day, and I don't want to skip my video upload. So here we are, and you get a free look into a small conversation with my dad. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace out. I'll see you tomorrow, and preferably with something that's not this, honestly. Alright, that's it. That's it. The video's over. See you guys.